All right, I think we're live.
Hey
Greg,
everybody, here we
Eric,
are,
Hey,
how's everyone doing?
can't complain.
living the dream.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I hear that. Um, I just realized in like 2 weeks I have to go to a biophysical conference in San Diego
Hmm,
for like a week for work.
damn.
So I'm not really I can't say I'm looking forward to it because
Presumably they're putting you up somewhere and all that.
the government is, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it'll be fine. And it'll probably be kind of fun, but it's just another entire week where I literally can't do
Mm-hmm.
anything.
Is it in like February or?
Yeah, it's in February. Mid
Okay.
February.
Well, I mean, admittedly, February is tomorrow, so
February's here, yeah.
it sure is. It sure is.
I feel I guess it is hard to believe that a month has already passed of the new year,
Yeah,
and
we're already a year in, or a month into the new year.
yeah, it's a little hard to believe. I feel I haven't I'm already getting the feeling that I haven't accomplished as much as I would have wanted to. Doesn't take long.
I, I
Yeah,
hear that.
we're a month into the year and already haven't done anything.
Well, I mean, Eric, in all honesty, Eric, you've done a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying, but it still seems like it's going maybe slower than I want.
You're still working on painting some more of the terrain.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
know. I don't really like. I don't know. I don't know if I really like painting terrain. I feel like it's something that everyone talks about. It's so fun and quick, and I don't know. It just doesn't feel quick. Like you try to be quick about stuff, and
I mean, how could it be quick? It's so big. There's so much there.
yeah. I mean, it's allowed me to mess around with oil paints, but like it's just terrible. Again, in some sense, I feel it's just GW terrain is just so detailed. There's so much shit in there
Well, yeah, I mean
that
these like little
it's like
platforms
too,
that you're
like
painting right
just too
now.
much.
Like holy shit. I
And
feel yeah, like a lot of these platforms, probably at least half of those little spaces and shit could just be flat filled in and be completely flat surfaces.
yeah. And because of it, like you want to use like a wash of some sort just to get some
Mm-hmm.
like color in there. But acrylic washes are terrible for it because
They dry too quickly
they
and
dry so
puddle and
fast and stain stuff and whatnot. So, I mean, that's why I have these trusty Abteilung oil paints because I'm cool like that. That I've been using and just making oil washes, and they are so much better for that that you can just kind of just slap it on. I mean, even slapping it on with a brush takes a while because like you have to like basically touch the brush to each of those little holes
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot, but
Yeah.
it's still better because then you can rub stuff off you don't like,
Mm-hmm.
and even if it's like a day later, you can still with some mineral spirits or whatnot kind of reactivate it slightly and push it around.
Yeah.
So while it's pretty quick and easy in some sense, then you have to wait for it to dry. So these, like, I feel I've used like just a black wash, a burnt umber wash, like a mixture of black and burnt umber,
Yeah.
like some raw umber, some rust, like lots of different stuff. and I think they look all right. Like, they look sort of varied and interesting, although it's still just so much silver
Yeah.
that isn't that interesting looking.
I guess in
So I,
some regards, that's probably better, particularly if you're like playing games and stuff on all the stuff. I guess you would probably want your models to like jump out at you and like look cool and interesting.
uh-huh. So I'm still gonna go in and probably add a bit more color. Like, I started to paint some cables black, particularly some of the ones that are hanging that you can't really see. And there's some like little computer screens or whatnot that I'm probably gonna paint and make them kind of like shining green, like I did on
Yeah.
another panel. So
Okay.
it'll have some other stuff, but because after I finish those two, all I really have are these two single pieces, and you can kind of see them in the back of the picture, just little walkway pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And then I
Have you done
will
anything with those yet?
they're primed,
They're prawned. Okay.
and then after that, I will have at least done the initial paint job on all the Zone Mechanicus terrain that I have, which is from the, what do you call it, Shadow War Armageddon box. I mean, I
Whoa.
guess it's stuff that could probably go back and paint again or whatnot, but or like
Yeah.
add stuff to it. Or I feel I want to keep trying to paint terrain, and I'll probably just experiment with different
Mm-hmm.
things. Um, Maybe I'll try to go back to like using chipping medium and stuff. Or,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's a good learning experience in that way, but it's still just kind of frustrating. Like, so that picture there of the thing on top of the building,
Mm-hmm.
I've since gone back and painted some of the hanging cables black and put some
Yeah.
bronze on some of the skulls and stuff. And I might do a little bit more just because it's very same-ish looking,
Yeah.
which isn't terrible, but it's just not interesting. But yeah, I don't know. Painting terrain kind of sucks in that way.
Yeah.
And it,
I
like, I feel like I'm just keep want to put like, oh, maybe I should have done this other thing or whatnot. And it's like, but even this already kind of took a while.
yeah. I get that.
So I don't know. But it'll be nice to have something done. And like, ultimately, if we're playing a game or taking pictures on some terrain, I think it'll nicely fall into the background and be able to showcase the models themselves. So I think that's good.
Yeah.
And
I think it'll
ultimately,
be
most
good.
of this terrain that Games Workshop is painted isn't particularly good looking either.
I mean, I think a lot of it is just it's overwrought and over detailed to the point where like would anyone have ever made anything that looks like no one would make anything like that.
Yeah, because the chipping sort of or rust pattern that I did was based on the Good Gardens of Hecate
Mhm.
um like tutorial that Anna recently released. And that's a good example because most of the terrain that she painted that way she had made herself,
Mhm.
and they're less detailed, they're flatter sections and whatnot, and as a result they look better.
Yeah.
Or in most cases I think they just look nicer because they're um just simpler, and you can get more of the brown from
Yeah.
the rusting and such. Whereas this, it's just so silver. I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of it.
Well, you're almost there.
But I think with the oil washes and stuff that I'm doing, I think I have another tile that I had painted, like the Zone Mortalis floor tile that I had painted before.
Yeah.
And I think if I go back to it and
Mhm.
just do some of those washes, it'll add a little extra definition to it without having to go the chipping like
Yeah.
sponge route I did with one of them that I think we talked about a little earlier that I thought maybe seemed perhaps a bit overdone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. So hopefully by I don't know, next week this time I'll just be done with the shit. And then I don't know what I'll do with it.
That would be great.
Cram it in a drawer and chip the paint off of it, I guess.
Are you gonna
Probably.
varnish the stuff?
I varnished most of it. I didn't varnish the big piece there or these new ones yet, but the
Okay.
other stuff I did at least lightly.
Hmm.
So yeah. It, yeah,
I've
just the pieces are so big because like it would have been cool to like use some different silvers on places
yeah.
to like, but like then you're brush painting tons of stuff and just and even if you're not doing that, since it's so detailed and little shit here and there, you're having to mask
Yeah.
like the little sections, which the one person we follow on Instagram is like this the Steel Legion. It's something to that effect. They recently have been painting some of this stuff, and they literally did use that like thin Tamiya masking tape and
Yeah.
like mask every single little fucking piece, such that they could like paint it separately. It's like, god damn, good on you.
Yeah. Does he?
Yeah,
I don't
this.
know if he. The Steel Legion. I don't know if he's been showing the train he's painted in stories and such. I don't know if
Yeah,
he's actually.
but painted a lot or a large portion of the Zone Mechanicus stuff, and it looks really good.
Yeah. It does.
Yeah, just I don't know. I guess as I do more of it, I'll maybe get better and find stuff I like and can push the stuff more. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I've finally started painting that Gene Stealer cultist again. um, I've been trying to paint like the little knee guards and some of the like rubberized, or what I deem
Mm-hmm.
to be like rubberized like body armor. Um, it's interesting to paint, and like I sort of feel like it's going okay. I think maybe the rubber might be a little, maybe even a little too blue. But I'm sort of thinking I
Mm-hmm.
might be able to dial that back with just like a brown, like a thin brown glaze or something like that. Um, but overall, I think it's going okay, and I'm happy I'm finally painting again. I guess we talked about the bases being like the terrain being overly detailed. Well, this base here is one of the examples where I took one of the Necromunda bases and filled some of the detailing in, and then covered some of the other detailing with like a little fine like copper
Mesh.
mesh. It just it just kind
Yeah,
of,
simplify it a bit.
yeah, like there's still
Make the
plenty
scale
of
better.
detail there. It's just it's a little more uniform and easier to kind of look at.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing, these Gene Stealer cultists, I don't really like painting them. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they have so many little details that it's not even clear like what the shit
But
is.
yeah.
Like there are all these like on the like upper carapace that the model's wearing. Like there are those like knobs, are those lights, or like what the fuck is all that shit?
Yeah, that is true. It's just not they're
And
just
like
extra
I was
detail for detail's
I was
sake.
looking at some of the ones like so I think Darren Latham, he is the one that sculpted them. So I
Mm-hmm.
today I was just looking around on his Instagram page because he's painted a bunch of them over the
That's a good
years.
idea.
And I was just trying to get a sense
You
like
would know
what
what this
like
stuff is.
wait.
He sculpted them rather.
Yeah, like what how did he paint that? Like what the fuck are those? And after looking at him on like the upper shoulder armor or whatever, those the one larger thing there, I almost think that's like a knob, like a radio like turning knob,
Hmm.
like
Okay.
because like there he always paints them like orange or green or something, and it doesn't look like he painted them to be a light. So like that's the only thing that I could think of. Like maybe that's a knob to turn on the light on the shoulder. Like
Yeah.
on
Wow.
like I have no idea what the shit is.
Hey, nice to have you here, Ruin.
Oh yeah,
501.
nice to have you. And then like I know we've talked about this before, but like they have all these like little cables and stuff like going into their legs and shit. It's like what the fuck is that? Like and I
Yeah.
painted
Yeah.
it as like it's an IV or whatever and you can see blood through it, but like I guess Darren he painted some of them just with like little caution stripes and stuff. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
okay, like yeah, I mean that looks interesting, but like
It's
what
interesting
what
how
is that? What's
different
the purpose
in
of that?
in terms of scaling the models. Like I feel these models' heads look perhaps slightly big, but then now they've moved to making heads really small. Like Games Workshop just is all over the place with
Yeah, I
the
mean I
heads they
almost
make.
feel these
They
we've
look a
got
tad big to me.
we've gotten so used to seeing particularly now smaller and smaller heads. Like I feel this looks fine to me. This looks about right.
I think some of it that maybe is partially because like how fat and puffy their arms are. Like
Yeah.
they're just a lot of asp and how puffy their legs are that it's just hard to really take its measure
Well, I think for this
like of
model,
proportions and things.
I extended the torso slightly. Like there's like a little spacer in there.
Oh my god.
So like I
So
made
yeah,
them slightly taller. But I think
it looks
overall, and
pretty
like I
good.
obviously cut down the size of his boots and shit like that. So overall, I think it looks pretty good.
Well, the
Um,
thing about boots, I mean, in all honesty, some people have large feet, but
yeah.
even if you have large feet, the feet that Games Workshop tends to make are just so puffy and balloon, like bulbous, that
Hmm.
like it doesn't even look like they have large feet as much as they just have clown shoes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and that kind of fits with their tendency to not not really be able to sculpt good cloth for legs and stuff. They're just I don't know, like parachute pants or like they have like a little fan or blower in there to inflate all the pants. And I don't
Yeah.
know why they do that for all their things. Well, I guess I do cuz kind of just seems like it's just a way to not sculpt as well. Or not be as critical and like just bang it out. Or that's how it sort of seems to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll be interested. Like once I finish actually painting this model and like gluing on his gun and whatnot, I'll be sort of interested to see how the model compares to some of the new Cadian models. Um,
Hmm.
because they are certainly they're more of a departure from a lot of the older sculpts and almost like the design philosophy, and they're more in line with like the Sister of Battle range.
Hmm.
And I think when we lambasted the new Imperial Guard when we first saw pictures, um, we talked about how their heads were too small. Well, I think they are. And like I guess today I actually went to a Games Workshop and bought one of the new Cadian command squads and was given a free plastic guardsman,
Did you get the
and
coin?
I didn't get a coin. I didn't spend $100.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, because like I mean it wouldn't have been hard to do it, but I didn't want all that. So I guess
Yeah.
we could let's see if is the camera where I think the camera's working.
Hey,
We can
has everybody? Apparently, it's the last day to register for Under the Dice's Mordheim thing or the Mordheim New England Open.
it
Yeah,
is.
I didn't do that and didn't know if we wanted to. Like, they seem pretty clear that they don't really care, and like you can just go and hang out and stuff. So I don't know. Oh, Ruin says he thinks it's full, so I don't really know. But
Well,
I didn't register.
I just gave him $5 for it.
Is that like the cost of registration, or is it like pay what you want or something?
It was the cost of registration. It's still on there. But like honestly, I don't give a shit. Like I don't really need to play.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so related to that, I registered and paid for like $5 and then pre-ordered one of the t-shirts.
I
But
guess
again,
maybe I
yeah,
should do that then.
I don't care that much if I don't play. Like I would like to play some games, but certainly the notion that this is supposed to be an actual tournament, like
Mm-hmm. It's like
I
I'd
don't know
almost
about
rather
that.
not play.
So I I registered maybe 2 days ago. And regardless, they took my money. I don't
I
I
guess I'll do it.
yeah, I don't. And again, yeah, I don't really care how much I actually play.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think yeah, I just set up I set everything up so which I think we can see the cameras back. Also, actually, let me before we look at some of the models, we can look at the box. So I opted to get the command squad simply because one, it was cheaper and had fewer models, which I like
Pretty
that.
cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. And um I decided most of the poses in the command squad they were more at ease, which I think were more believable poses that if I would actually want to do something with them, I could. Though, that being said, one of the poses here is quite awful. Like they're lunging or
God.
something. It's really
Yeah,
bad.
it does look terrible.
It's awful. And like the captain, they have like a longer trench coat, which looks fine, but they decided it was really crucial that they needed to be standing up on something. What's interesting about this is they actually have two different things that they can be standing on.
Hmm.
One's this piece of like concrete with like metal rods sticking out of it, and then they can also have like a sandbag or something. So like
Oh, that sounds cool.
yeah, so they tried to give you some options and stuff, which I guess is appreciated, but it would have been nicer if they just weren't standing on anything.
Well, I mean, I guess lucky for you, you'll never do anything with that model, so.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah, so that's fair.
or probably not. It seems it fits at the. Oh God, I hate why in the fuck are the female heads smaller than the other heads? Like if they weren't smaller, the heads would still be too small, I think, but they wouldn't be the most awful
Yeah,
thing,
so
or
that
at least
was
that's the way it
Eric.
seems
That
to
was the
me.
first thing that I was going to mention. Um, that was my assessment. Looking at some of the pictures, it seemed like all the female heads were smaller, and now actually looking at the models, that's pretty much true. Like the
Mm.
free Imperial Guard model they would give you this month, I was able to get one, which we're looking at right here. And this, it looks like it comes with just a single what is supposed to be a female head. That looks pretty good. But it's
But it basically doesn't look good because it's so small. It just looks so comical.
yeah, it's just too small. And what makes it even worse is if you compare it to the male heads,
Hmm.
they're they're a- they're bigger. At least the faces are bigger. And I just I guess I just don't understand what the rationale for that was. It's not like most of the other times what Games Workshop will do if there's like a female model, they'll make them noticeably smaller than the male models, which I always thought was a little weird. But by making them smaller, if they decided to make their heads smaller, it sort of worked. In this case, the bodies, they're all the same size. It's just they make the head smaller and it looks awful.
Yeah, it just is so stupid. Why would they do that?
Yeah, I really don't know.
Well, I guess it goes back to the idea of the body, arms and stuff. It's all just in like air blown in there, inflating these big baggy whatever.
Yeah, so like looking at the sculpt here, there are a lot of
Pretty
aspects that I
good.
do honestly like about it. Like
The
the
feet aren't as bad as I would have expected.
Yeah, I was gonna. The body looks pretty good. They have like a bunch of pouches and other stuff pre-molded to the belt, so that just looks much nicer than what you would have done. They have like a little canteen that's honestly pretty small. Like they have a nice little backpack with a shovel that is sized pretty well. Um, the cloth and stuff on the arms look pretty good. But when you go to the legs, that's I think overall they look okay, but they're super baggy and puffy, and a lot of the folds in them don't
It's sort of soft. Well,
soft
because
and they don't really look real to me. Like not at
this
all.
makes me think of all the Simon Egan sculpts, like the Death Core, like the Forge
Mm-hmm.
World Death Core, the Elysians and stuff. They're like the folds and stuff in their clothing are a bit sharper, right? And
Much sharper.
they seem more, well, yeah, just less baggy and bulbous.
Yeah. So that being said, these still look so much better than some of the other Games Workshop releases, like the Orlock models and stuff like that. Like you can actually clearly tell where the bend in the leg should be. The boots themselves, well, I would still argue they're a little too big. Um, for a GW boot, they're pretty small, and they actually look like you could actually articulate your toes and stuff, which is good. So, like, I mean, overall, they look pretty nice. The folds and the cloth, particularly on the legs, look bad. And the
You have a
heads,
scale Cadian, like a Cadian model you use as kind of a
oh
scale
fuck,
reference, right?
I do.
It's probably
Let me
not
try and
painted.
get it.
You don't need to use it now, but I feel at some point it'll be interesting to see it compared to other models. And it seems like it'd be kind of fun if that Cadian was painted, but it just seems like a waste of time. It's too shitty.
Oh my
Or I
god.
mean, they're kind of cool looking. At
Okay.
least their heads aren't.
So,
Jesus
yeah, like if
Christ.
you compare the helmeted head, like they're not even the new heads are so much smaller.
That makes me wonder because we have a box of the upgraded Cadians that just had an additional head sprue that probably had some female heads and stuff. One can only pray that those were not made smaller.
Yeah, so that's something I was hoping to do, but I looked around a little bit and I think I've stored them away, so I have to go and find them. But that will be something interesting to look at. If the heads are more similar to the old heads, like this one here, that might be kind of the solution to use some of those heads that are larger, if they are.
Yeah, it could be a semi-simple solution to if you wanted to just build a Cadian as like a reference one that's not as bad looking. Hey,
Yeah.
lifeboat.
And I think like the new helmet designs that they made for the Cadians are actually pretty neat. It's just they're too small.
Yeah.
Um
What's weird because people are talking about, man, I like these new Cadians, like they're so much better scaled or whatever. And I mean, I guess they are better, but it just seems like no one has a critical eye for anything. It's just if Games Workshop puts it out,
yeah.
we love it. We, as like a collective, we like obviously the three of us don't love it, but we don't love anything in terms of GW models, basically. So even those the male heads look a fair bit smaller, right? I mean, it's
No,
kind
yeah,
of
all
hard
the
to do.
heads are smaller. The male heads are smaller. Like the helmet sizes between the female and male heads I think are about the same. It's just the face itself and how far down the chin goes. For the male ones, they're a little larger. So
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
it's a little baffling that they made the female head smaller, particularly when they don't.
Their special weapons just look so awful.
Yeah, like this melt-a-gun here. Um, just how the pistol grip is attached to it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And
Yeah, that's really weird looking.
and then if you look at the back, there's like a little knob for, I guess they use like a little side handle, which I almost envision the only reason they did that was because that was easier to sculpt than to have a hand below this thing because it's just so big. Like, how would you even get your hand
Well, that's
underneath
why they
that to
put the
hold it?
strap there. Like everything about that design, even how the handle is, like the handle's cocked out like that because otherwise they couldn't it would need to be smaller to be held. So like I feel every aspect of that design was made just to like skirt around the fact that it couldn't be held properly. So they just like fudged it and
Yeah.
added some stuff. So it's like, yeah, it works. Look at
One
the
thing that
fucking plasma pistol. What a joke.
oh yeah. So the las
Shit's so
pistols,
stupid.
the las pistols are
Kinda look
actually
good.
smaller. Yeah, they're smaller than the older las pistols. So like they kind of look good. I mean, they're
But we're
still
so much better than the rest.
yeah, they're still too big, but like if you compare it to the bolt pistol or the plasma pistol, like
Sadly, those are probably smaller than Space Marine ones, but like it doesn't look it.
it doesn't look good. It also here they have like a little tank trap that you can glue together, which is
Mm-hmm.
kind of neat. But like they have a lot of kind of nice little details, but all of the weapons for the most part look awful because of how big they are. Um, the hand that's leaning the las rifle on the shoulder, which we
Mm-hmm.
sort of talked about how the hand looked awful. The
Ooh.
actual model looks okay. You still like couldn't hold something like that, which is kind of why it looks so awkward. Um,
Yeah, Games Workshop, you perplex us.
yeah. Um, one thing about the command squad, they kind of, some of the bodies, they have a whole bunch of like little straps and other gear attached to them, which I think overall looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Like even more so than the normal guardsmen. And they have one of them is supposed to be a medic, and like on their back they have like a bone saw and like some other stuff. So that's kind of neat.
Man, the chain sword looks so bad. The teeth are so big that it wouldn't even fit back there. Like the teeth are so long that because it should be a loop that loops down, but it's too big. Like it wouldn't be able to loop.
Yeah, like it's bad. They're bad. Their designs have been bad for a long time.
Yeah,
And
GW just can't make a good looking weapon.
they really can't.
And like it's almost like they take it and make them worse over the years.
Well, one
Like
thing
make
that is interesting, like they have a whole bunch of little tiny holstered pistols that
mm-hmm.
they sort of tried to make them fit like one of the las pistols, but they are in fact smaller. So again, like the sculptors, they know that the shit just doesn't work. But and I guess you sort of hear all the time that the weapons are as big as they are because it's a game and you need to be able to see what they have, etc. Which that's just an excuse. Like,
Yeah, it is.
like all of these weapons could be half the size they are, and you could still recognize them just the same and just as easily.
Yeah, and it would have been easier for them to sculpt in believable like ways they're holding them too.
Like some of them have like knives and what I believe to be bayonets on their side. They are so big that it's almost a sword. But then you know this is a sword.
Hey, Johnny. Yeah, wow. Just I don't know. I'm sure you'll be able to make a neat model or two, but you'll have to put in the work because it's a Games Workshop model.
See,
It's a
honestly, like
Games
looking
Workshop
at
model.
this old head here and the new one, the actual face is relatively similar.
Hmm. Okay.
It's just I think Brian Nelson had something to do with sculpting these older Cadians. He realized that the helmet would actually need to be a little larger to actually fit the actual head in there. Um, it seems like with these newer ones, that wasn't
Yeah, that
happening.
is not as much of the a case.
But again, these
Yeah.
could have been fine if they just scaled back the bodies and the torsos and the legs.
Mm-hmm. Well, is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, overall they look pretty good. Um, but yeah, there are
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things. There are a lot of choices that really kept me what questioning why they did what they did. But I
I
guess
this
that's
is
always
this
true.
isn't really related to this, but have anyone in the chat played around at all with ChatGPT? It's like an AI software that will, I guess, answer questions by combing through the internet to put together responses.
I have not. So do you have to make an account for it?
Yeah, you just go to um their website and you, and make an account with it. It's one of OpenAI's projects, which they also have. I think they're the people behind Dolly, which is one of the AIs that make what do you call it? Like AI art stuff. But and so you can just put stuff in, ask it to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I put in something that I ask it, write a short story about a space marine in the Warhammer 40,000 setting fighting chaos. And I don't know, in about like 15 to 30 seconds, it wrote a story that I will read a little bit of it. Once a proud member of the Imperial Guard, Tarkus had been recruited into the ranks of the Space Marines to serve as a bulwark against the forces of chaos. Deployed to the front lines of a brutal war, Tarkus fought tirelessly against the minions of the Dark Gods, his bolter echoing across the battlefield as he brought death to the enemies of humanity. But even as Tarkus and his battle brothers pushed the forces of chaos back, a new threat emerged from the shadows. A demon prince, a monstrous being of immense power, had come to lead the chaos forces and turn the tides of the war. Undaunted, Tarkus took up the challenge, engaging the demon prince in single combat. The two battled across the war-torn landscape, their weapons clashing in a shower of sparks. Finally, with a roar of defiance, Tarkus landed a mortal blow, sending the demon prince back to the warp. Panting and battered, Tarkus stood victorious, a symbol of hope to his fellow space marines and a warning to the forces of chaos that even the mightiest of their minions could fall before the might of the Emperor's warriors. With a sense of grim satisfaction, Tarkus shouldered his bolter and prepared to return to the fight, ready to face whatever new horrors the universe might hold.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed.
It fits very well with the kind of stupid bullshit that
Mm-hmm.
I think more of the popular interpretation of what 40K is would have.
Yeah, agreed. Oh my god. So I just put the same prompt into it again.
Mm-hmm.
Sergeant K.L. Dravin, a proud space marine of the Imperial Fist chapter, was on the front lines of the war against chaos. He and his squad were tasked with securing a vital communications relay on a desolate planet overrun by the forces of the Chaos God Slanesh. The fighting was fierce as chaos cultists and demons poured forth from portals to the warp, raining death and destruction on the Imperial forces. Sergeant Draven and his men fought with bravery and determination, their bolt guns blazing as they pushed forward towards their objective. Despite heavy losses, Sergeant Draven and his squad reached the communications relay, only to find it heavily guarded by a horde of Slaneshi demons. With a fierce cry, Sergeant Draven led the charge, his power sword flashing as he hacked his way through the enemy. His squad fought bravely at his side, but the demons were too many, and the fighting was brutal. Just as it seemed as though all was lost, a detachment of Imperial Guard reinforcements arrived, their lasguns providing covering fire as Sergeant Draven and his men secured the relay. With their objective secure, Sergeant Draven and his squad prepared to withdraw, fighting a desperate rearguard action as they sought to hold the line against the relentless assault of the Chaos Horde. In the end, Sergeant Draven and his squad managed to fall back to the landing zone where they boarded their drop pods and escaped the planet. Though they had suffered heavy losses, they had succeeded in their mission and had dealt a significant blow to the forces of chaos. As Sergeant Drevin sat in the cockpit of his drop pod, surrounded by the bodies of his fallen brothers, he took comfort in the knowledge that their
Oh,
sacrifices would not be in vain, for they were the Space Marines, the Emperor's angels of death, and they would
oh
stop at
God.
nothing to protect the Imperium from the darkness that consumed it.
Despite the fact that they just left it.
But yeah, so that I couldn't even read it as fast as it was producing that.
Oh my God.
So I feel that's an interesting thing about it, since it is just like an AI thing, like, which maybe might make it slightly harder for like plagiarism stuff, because like every time you put it in, it generates something new.
Yeah.
So, but
And probably the
I
more
mean,
you give it this prompt, it's going to start to
yeah.
change and oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm just regenerating again, and now it's Sergeant Titus of the Imperial Space Marines.
Whoa.
Or yeah, dang. Yeah, it's something else.
What
I
I want,
also
what I would want to know is like let's say like write a poem in the style of Charles Bukowski about heroin or something, and I wonder how it would do, or like write a poem like fuck what's his name, William Carlos Williams about nectarines, and see what it would do.
Also, I know, at least in terms of in like the education field, like if you're having it write you like a chemistry lab report or something or a biology lab report, it will do a pretty convincing job of like say if you ask it to write an introduction or something like that. But if you have it write a citations page, it will generate one and it'll look real, but all the stuff in it, it's all fake. And if you ask it, I think if you ask it if the citations are real, it'll tell you they're not. So I imagine in time it will be able to generate real citations, but yeah, so it's interesting. And I don't know how I feel about it.
yeah, it's something.
Yeah.
I am pretty impressed with, like, sure those stories are stupid, but like
Yeah.
it is a lot better.
Yeah, so I feel it, yeah, it's I mean, I think it's already causing waves um in a lot of fields and such. I mean, obviously there have been AI things like this for a while, but this particular one is like just basically like a Google search.
Hmm.
And it was, I think, released in November.
Yeah. Can they put rings of power into ChatGPT? Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so it's interesting. I guess the big thing would come if different companies and whatnot will start and will like stop hiring like writers and stuff and instead just like have this generate someone and then have someone look over it and like modify it.
So I write a poem in the style of William Carlos Williams about nectarines. Do you know the William Carlos Williams poem? I think it's called Such, or like, let me find it.
I asked it to write an emo song about an autoclave, and it gave me something.
Well, do people know William Carlos Williams? He was an American physician that wrote poetry. He had the poem "The Red Wheelbarrow." So much
Yeah.
depends
Oh
on
yeah, yeah.
how glazed with rainwater beside their white chickens. That poem. His other famous one is called "This Is Just to Say," which I will read it to you. I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox, and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me, they were delicious, so sweet and so cold.
Okay.
And now I ask it to write a poem in the style of William Carlos Williams about nectarines. This is just to say I have eaten the nectarines that were in the bowl, so sweet and juicy, like the summer sun. They were too delicious for me to shun. Forgive me, for I could not wait. The temptation was too great. This the juicy fruit, so succulent and sweet. But I will make amends by buying more so that others can enjoy the nectar.
Jesus.
That's some stupid rhyming.
Oh.
But wow, that's something else. Holy fuck.
Like it like so my wife, she's like a chemistry teacher in like high school. So she asked like we ask write an essay about the decomposition of sodium bicarbonate, and like in like a minute it did it. And yeah, it's oh, I also asked it to like I don't know if people are aware, there's a YouTube channel called Shut Up and Sit Down that reviews board games,
Yeah.
and they recently did a review for the tile-based game Rummy Cube,
Mm-hmm.
or Rummy Cub is how they pronounce it. So, and it's pretty interesting and a pretty fun review that I would recommend people watching. But I think he decided to Tom. He's one of I would say one of their newer reviewers, but has been around for a while. But I think he was potential like he must played it growing up a lot, and this is neither here nor there. But he got the rules pretty wrong, and you can see him playing it wrong in the video. But um, I think he was fascinated by someone's like one sentence review of the game that was something like more of an activity than a game,
Huh.
talking about Rummy Cube, which seems about right. But in honor of that, I ask GPT to write a review of Rummy Cube. Rummy Cube is a classic tile-based strategy game that has been entertaining families and friends for decades. This game is easy to learn but challenging to master, making it a great option for players of all ages and skill levels. And it goes on.
Whoa.
So they
Like, so
fucking got the rules wrong.
he got the rules wrong. He like how they. I mean, he didn't really describe the rules too much, but you can see them playing it wrong. Like you can the same number in sets together, but they all have to be different colors, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't do it that way, and they have like two blue sevens next to each other and a red seven.
Do
And they
people
also
mention in the comments?
not many, like one person did that I saw.
Okay.
Um and they also say like whenever you have to pick up a tile, you pick up 3 tiles, which is just not right.
Well, do you think there are like newer rule sets that change some of that
No.
stuff? Yeah.
No.
I don't think so.
But admittedly, the drawing 3 tiles seems like maybe a good house rule, at least in the beginning, if you can't lay down tiles. like to just draw a couples to make it potentially more fun. But regardless, yeah, ChatGPT, it seems like it'll uh yeah, it's just really interesting because it would be a good basis to like just write general descriptions of stuff, then get it, fact check it a little bit, change it a bit. Like it's fairly impressive what it can do. Admittedly, it's not always right. Like I ask it to do a comparison of the RE20 microphone, which Greg and I are using, like comparing it and contrasting to the Shure SM7B, which is kind of like the other microphone people like.
Yeah.
And it does it like the, comparing the design, polar patterns, sound quality, things of that nature, as well as price and other things. And it says the Shure SM7B is more expensive, which just isn't true.
Hmm.
So that is an interesting thing about this, because since they're just combing through the internet, I mean, depending on what's out there,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily right.
Just like people.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, yeah, I think it's interesting. Wow, in certain applications, it sort of could replace a person. I don't think it would in like many cases, because particularly like with AI generated art, like it it at least right now it can't take the place of like a talented artist who like
hmm
really knows, say, like good compositions
But
and like,
admittedly, ChatGPT probably could be Games Workshop could use it to fill its codices with bad short stories. It wouldn't.
oh yeah,
Um,
because honestly the ones you were reading were pretty similar to what I've read in some of the codex
I mean, they
books.
could like jazz it up a bit, but
Add a little more, add some more specifics for the new units that they're adding to the book, and yeah, yeah.
and it doesn't seem to do that well with like really detailed information. Like I tried to get it to write something about the Mordheim 2022 event, and it said there's not enough information about that to do anything with it. So, um,
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, maybe if I had written a post about the games that I played, maybe then it would have had enough.
yeah, but interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I read an article today about it, like the amount of money that it's costing to run
Mm-hmm.
Chat GPT is astounding.
Okay.
Because I guess they just need so much computing power to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and it's free.
Well,
I mean, at the
and
moment, presumably they will start charging for it
yeah,
just to help run it and such. I did it compares and contrasts Vallejo and Games Workshop paints. I had it do that.
Mm.
It did it. So like to me, this seems like the ideal thing for Rob Bear of Spiky Bits and those sorts of things, just to like
Yeah.
continue to shit out meaningless articles.
Yeah. But do you
well, and
think
it's
it could
fine so
generate
long as
titles
it's
that as
fine so
clickbaity?
long as they acknowledge that it was written with chat.
People would probably actually respect Rob even more if he wrote his articles like that.
Which I'd be somewhat interested to see how, like, because presumably they're obviously pulling the information from the internet that they could cite this stuff probably, but then they might reveal that they just got it off of Clickhole or some random bullshit. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, and I obviously don't really know how the back end of it works, but supposedly it's pretty good at coding. You
I
can
heard
ask it
that.
to write code and whatnot, and it scours GitHub or
Yeah.
presumably it does.
Yeah.
So we have a bunch of Space Marine stories to put up on our blog.
Oh man.
Yeah, shit.
That's bad. That's real bad.
The
Well,
William Carlos Williams poem they wrote was bad.
it
Yeah.
was pretty much just plagiarized.
Well, no, it took like the form and some key statements from
Yeah.
this is just to say, but made it longer and just put a bunch of shitty rhymes.
Yeah.
Like it's not a good poem.
The emo song about the autoclave is also not good.
Yeah. Of course it's
That's
not.
clearly a shout out to John Darnielle of the Mountain Goats. He has a song called Autoclave.
Yeah,
It's
that's pretty
great.
good. This is not pretty good, but it's funny. And I almost want like I could see people just using something like this to like write the basis of something and then try to improve it.
Yeah. Yeah. Weird. Weird.
Um so we ended up chatting a long time about Chat GPT. I don't know if we want to talk a little bit about some of the reveals from I guess it was at LVO last
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah. Las Vegas Open. Um, I think we we certainly have a lot of opinions about some of the stuff that was
I mean,
revealed.
most of it we probably don't have to talk about much, or we could talk about it a later time. But we could potentially just like talk about the garbage Space Marines,
Yeah, I think that would be a fine thing that we can end the stream
which,
with that.
admittedly, it kind of looks like the Space Marine designs were generated through like an AI art thing.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's maybe like that. That's perhaps cutting to the point. Yeah, Greg, we decide we're gonna just talk briefly about the Space Marines for the LVO thing and call it. And my initial hot take is that it looks as though Games Workshop used an art AI to generate these by putting in some keywords like rocket launcher, Space Marines, and they generated this for
No,
them.
the key words would be
Liefeld,
Rob
X-Force.
Liefeld's X Force.
Yeah, X Force. They probably wouldn't have feet then, but then they use their expert sculptors to add in the details they wanted. But
Yeah,
holy shit, though, these these models, I don't know what are they called, Desolation Marines or something. These are
yeah,
just so terrible. And I feel we talk often about how horrible Games Workshop weapon designs are, like overly big, overly stupid. And in general, no one cares, or that's how it seems
yeah.
like. People are too accustomed to what Games Workshop models look like and stuff, and it just you you start to think that's normal essentially.
Hmm.
But these, I feel, have been so egregious and stupid looking that virtually everybody hates them, at least who posts online. Like, I mean, maybe like one person out of every 15 says, actually, that I kind of like them, even though they are pretty stupid looking. Like, no one, like, I don't think anyone I've seen actually just say they like these. And for a long time, people have been generally making fun of Primaris about trying to add some modern weapon aesthetics and just putting more guns and more guns Would you like some guns with those guns? And
And that's how
this
you
just like,
turn one gun into 5 guns.
yeah, the Simpsons thing. Yeah, I mean there are tons of memes now that were like
Yeah.
the Fifth Element memes, and like
Yeah.
they just like make themselves.
Yeah.
These designs are so bad.
Also, I was chatting with some people, some friends, and one of the interesting things is I feel like some of these aspects, like you could clip them off, and like they'd actually look pretty good on like the side of a tank or something. Like
Yeah.
like a lot of
Like
the
the
stuff.
little rocket launchers could be like kind of better looking hunter killer missiles or something.
Yeah.
Not the chain gun rockets. Those look like Tau weapons.
But like the other thing that's like baffling to me is what it like almost looks like it has a heavy bolter ammo feed. Like what the fuck is that? What's that even feeding? Is it feeding the rocket pod?
Presumably that's the idea, but it doesn't look like it's aligned properly that it could do that. It's just dumb shit. Well, that's why it looks like an AI art program designed it, because it's just like, let's cram a bunch of guns and shit together. And like the one here, like they assembled it such that the rockets are crooked, like the rocket pods are crooked. It,
Yeah.
it's so clear that games are, they just don't have any ideas. They don't know what to do. And like the weird thing is just like, just make just make Terminators. Just make Primaris Terminators. Make them look the same. Just make actual jump pack stuff. Like
Mhm.
just remake shit and people would like them.
Well, see, the other thing that's strange is how many different variations do the Primaris have of like Devastators? Well, like in this Battle Force, you have these new dumb shits with their X Force rocket launchers, and then they already released the essentially the same models, but they have like even bigger
Well, the
bolters.
Gravis armor ones with the bolters. Well, you see, they would look better. These rocket launchers
Oh
would
yeah,
look a little bit better on the Gravis armor. I mean, not a ton because the design's just so stupid.
yeah. Why
But
aren't they actually? Honestly,
like that would look better. That would immediately, I think, would have alleviated some people's concern with it. But they just give them bigger guns and people will think they're cool. Like I just can't see how this got. Or actually, nah, I take that back. I was gonna say I can't see how this got past their like editors, and but it seems like they just don't have that, or not critical ones. And they obviously have their general problems: the broken wrist, the like the sergeant there, red helmet sergeant, like he's
hmm.
literally firing that weapon. So
Yeah.
there's a scope there,
Because
like
like,
he's firing all those rockets.
and he can't reload them. Like this one, he's carrying like, what's he even carrying in his other hand? It's like that's
That
supposed to
might be
be an.
something that slots into the backpack or something. I don't know. It's just so stupid. They look they're just I don't it's just astounding. Like they just don't have ideas.
Yeah, because I mean they already have
Someone
the.
mentioned that they wouldn't be surprised if there was a Jess Goodwin sketch of these that actually looked kind of neat, and
Yeah.
then somehow they made a model that, but some of them, if you really trim this stuff down, maybe they wouldn't look the most awful. But it's mainly, yeah, they just didn't have any ideas.
When the sergeant there, he's like sort of trying to hold that weapon up in like a cool "I'm standing here" pose. Like no matter how strong this dude is, that would be so unwieldy. Like I don't even think he could hold it like that.
He certainly, well, the reason he's holding it like that is because he couldn't hold it in front of him to shoot it. So
Yeah, they're
have to put it
awful.
somewhere.
They're fucking awful. And
Yeah,
then,
they're just comical looking.
yeah,
I can't even believe they have this new maybe lieutenant model
yeah,
that's like a multi-part one. It looks okay, but the the pose is bad. They're on the rock. They're
yeah, they're on a
standing
rock.
wide, so it's just like, I mean, I guess it's nice that they have a model that you can build a bunch, but generally because the pose is bad, like it's just it's just another throwaway model.
Yeah, it looks bad. Yeah, what a joke. My god.
Yeah, they really struck out here. I just can't even believe it.
Yeah,
Like it
what a
it looks
fail.
like an April Fool's thing or something. Like that they're not serious, but they are.
I actually do. I would love to know what they call their weapons. They tell us. I don't
They
think
do
they
tell
do.
you what the like devastation marines. I don't know if they do say they're like super frag and super crack missiles or
No,
something.
wait. With their indirect fire Castellian launchers and the choice of super. Oh my god.
So they're like indirect fire. So like why is there a scope? Why it's just so stupid. Like
It says
we should just stop.
until now, long-ranged heavy support has been missing from the Primaris infantry arsenal.
I it's funny. Like I didn't stay up to watch
Yeah, I didn't
the
either.
reveal stream, but I assume it's the same people, Eddie and whomever. Like it must have been weird trying to say this shit was cool. But I guess they
Yeah.
always have to do that, and it always is weird. So, like, even the dreadnought isn't very cool because it's just too many guns. But it's better than the devastation marines. But what isn't better than them?
It's desolation, Eric.
Mm, okay.
Fucking awful. Yeah, wow. They're they're bad. They're really bad. Remarkably bad. God. How did they do it? How did they do it?
Yeah, I almost couldn't believe it when I saw them. To be honest.
Yeah. What a joke.
Yeah, astounding. They have a bunch of other reveals, some of which are kind of neat. Like
Yeah.
the lizardmen Saurus warriors are
Yeah,
fairly
they
good.
look pretty good. I guess I would say they finally made like normal Saurus warriors that are cool. Like I like them.
Skinks look terrible, or like they're just not skinks. Just they need a redesign. But
Their
the little
faces are
raptor
a little
things they're
weird.
riding are kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I guess maybe we can probably call the stream to a close soon. We can
Yeah.
talk more about some of these other releases in maybe the following week or whatnot. Um, but yeah, so I guess thanks everybody for joining us tonight and listening to us ramble on about, I guess, AI.
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, so keep on enjoying the hobby. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will talk to you again in the future. Until then,
Yeah.
over and out.